Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Love Thy Neighbor, a webinar on SOGIE equality as a religious value. I am Bella Rivera, your host for this afternoon's discussion. This is a part of UP Babaylan's Here for Queers, a campaign for the International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia. In addition to this afternoon's webinar, we also have the Icons for Icons, a fundraising activity where you can commission our volunteer artists where you can have your own profile picture. All proceeds will benefit the Golden Gaze Manila. And we will also be having our Twitter rally on Friday, May 15, 8 p.m. onwards. So if you guys are free, pwede po tayong sumali at iparinig natin ang ating mga tinig. Next, we will be presenting our partner organizations. Here for Queers is co-presented with the UP Center for Women's and Gender Studies, the Youth Advocates for the Philippines, the Initiative PH, Side B Philippines, UST Hiraya, Pantay, Rise for Equality, and Equality.ph. It is also in partnership with Metro Manila Pride, Bulacan State University Bahaghari, UP Alianza, and TUP Dugong Bukaw. It is also brought to you by UP CMC FST Student Council, Sangguniang Commission on Gender Equality, UP College of Education Student Council, GMA Cavite Youth Organization, Benilde Hive, Lagablab LGBT Network, and PNU Catalonan. And also with our media partner, Inquirer.net. Moving on, for our opening message, we've invited an esteemed advocate. He is a Catholic advocate for SOGIE equality. He is the president of Babaylanes Incorporated, an NGO run by alumni of UP Babaylan devoted to help LGBTQI students form their own organizations. He is also the first openly gay chairperson of UP Diliman Student Council, the youngest president of UP Babaylan, and a former commissioner of the National Youth Commission. Let's all welcome Mr. Percival Sendanya.
Ating moderator, who will be properly introduced later. Maraming salamat, Bella, doon sa introduction. At napansin ko doon sa SOCMED card nakalagay ay Catholic SOGIE Equality Advocate. Siguro sa lumang panahon, lalagyan ko ng comma in between Catholic and SOGIE Equality Advocate. Bihira sa karanasan ko na nag-intersect yung dalawa. And I would like to begin my reflection this afternoon as way of opening the discussion by reading an excerpt from a publication that was jointly published by UP Babaylan, Babaylanes, and the UP Center for Women's and Gender Studies. The title of the publication is Anong Pangalan Mo sa Gabi? At Iba Pang Tanong sa Mga LGBT. Sa librong ito, may isang tanong. Ang tanong ay, nagsisimba ka ba? At ito ang naging sagot. Noong prosesyon ng Lanaval, napansin ng isang matandang babae na, and I quote, maraming baklang dumalo ngayong taon, no? Gusto ko sanang sumagot at sabihin, and I quote again, lagi naman po, taon-taon. Maraming mga LGBT ang pinipiling manatili sa loob ng mga relihiyong minamata ang kanilang sexualidad at binabansagang kasalanan ang kanilang mga relasyon. Totoong may malaking kontradiksyon sa ganitong sitwasyon, pero nagagawa ng paraan ng mga LGBTIQ na pagtagpuin ang kanilang pagkatao at pananampalataya sa personal na level. Hindi madali, pero kinakarir. Sa mahabang panahon bilang mga LGBTIQ and as advocates, kadalasan kino-compartmentalize natin yung ating SOGIE-esque at yung ating pananampalataya para magkahiwalay na pigeon box. Pero may mga panahon na nagtatagpo ito. At sa mga panahon nagtatagpo ito, kadalasan mayroong tensyon o tunggalian. Halimbawa na lamang, sa tulak natin para maipasa ang SOGIE Equality Bill, ramdam na ramdam ng mga kapatid natin sa community yung tensyon na ito. Imagine nung nakaraang Kongreso na bulok sa Senado kahit pumasa na sa lower house ang SOGIE Equality Bill dahil hinarang ng mga senador na ang hugot ng kanilang oposisyon ay relihiyon. Na ang dahilan ng kanilang pag-delay noong deliberation sa plenary ay pananalig. Nakita natin na sa 18 taong laban para sa SOGIE Equality, ang pangunahing stumbling block ay religious principles. So, imagine being in the middle of that tension. May pananampalataya, pananalig ka, and yet yung pananampalataya at pananalig mo ginagamit din para invalidate yung very existence mo at yung advancement ng iyong karapatang pantao. Lagi kong sinasabi, holistic dapat ang tingin natin sa mga tao. Hindi lamang isang layer ng identity mo yung SOGIE-esque, nandiyan din yung bahagi na iyong pananampalataya kasi marami sa atin ang may pananampalataya. Hindi pwedeng paghiwalayin. Pero ang kinakailangang tingnan ay paano rin ginagamit ang relihiyon para i-emancipate yung ating paniniwala. Nakakatuwa na nitong nakaraang SOGIE Equality Bill Committee Deliberations sa Senado, habang maraming mga religious groups ang nagsasabi na ito ay laban sa Biblia, laban sa Quran, laban sa pananampalataya, ayaw ng Diyos, mabubulid kayo sa impyerno at sa gatang apoy. Meron din tayong mga religious leaders na nagsabi na ito ay napapanahon na. Isa dun sa talagang tumimo sa puso ko ay yung nabanggit ng isang madre, at baka mamaya pag-usapan natin, hindi ko napapangalanan, isang madre na kilala ding feminista, na presidente ng isang eskwelahan para sa kababaihan. Yun na yung clue. Nakakatuwa at nakakataba ng puso na napagtagpo niya sa lente ng social justice at karapatang pantao ang SOGIE-esque equality, SOGIE-esque rights, at ang faith. This afternoon, I hope that as we confront the questions that have been bugging the community for the longest time but we have refused to address, sana kahit papano maliwanagan at mabigyang daan yung pagsibol ng bagong diskurso. Paano ang espiritualidad ay magiging bahagi ng pagigiit ng karapatan at pagkakapantay-pantay. Maraming salamat sa ating mga panelists, maraming salamat sa organizers dahil hinarap nyo yung tanong na matagal nang iniiwasan ng marami. And this afternoon, we are going to confront a very important question because this is part and parcel of who we are. Love thy neighbor. Maraming salamat. Magandang hapon sa ating lahat.
Thank you, Mother Percival Sendanya. Ngayon naman, of course, let's talk about some ground rules before we officially begin the discussion. Of course, the first one is this webinar is a safe space for critical thought and free discussion. Respect, decency, and compassion must be observed by all parties at all times. Participants found posting offensive and disruptive comments will be removed from the webinar. Questions will only be entertained during the open forum or after the panel discussion. Participants are asked to direct their questions to a specific speaker or speakers. Only the first 5 unrelated questions at the start of the open forum portion will be entertained. And last, the views of the host, the moderator, the speakers, and the participants do not necessarily reflect the views of UP Babaylan and our partner organizations and vice versa. And again, we are encouraging everyone to ask the questions. Yung mga haka-haka nyo, yung mga gusto nyo tanongin, i-shoot nyo na para syempre masagot din ng ating mga panelists for today. Next, we have invited a couple of Filipino Sign Language interpreters to aid our friends with hard of hearing. They have been working closely with Pinoy Deaf Rainbow, an organization for deaf and hard of hearing LGBTQI people. We have Mr. Bayani Generoso Jr. and KZ Miroy. Mag-wave po tayo, Mr. Bayani and Ms. KZ.
Hello. Ako po si Bayani Generoso. I'm from PINASI, the Philippine National Association for Sign Language Interpreters. And you can also see our group recently sa media. So sa ABS, sa GMA, PTV, you'll always find our interpreting group there. Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you very much po, si Ma'am Casey po, if ever. Okay.
Hello po, good afternoon. I'm Casey po. I'm one of the sign language interpreters. Yun lang po, good afternoon.
Thank you po in advance for helping our friends with hard of hearing po. Next, let's introduce our moderator for this afternoon. She is the director of the University of the Philippines Center for Women's and Gender Studies. She is a member of the faculty and was former chairperson of the Department of Women and Development Studies, College of Social Work and Development, UP Diliman. She's also the treasurer and a member of the Board of Trustees of the Likhaan Center for Women's Health, an organization focused on promoting the health and rights of women from marginalized communities. She has a BSc Honors Economics degree from the University of London and a BA in Philosophy, an MA in Women and Development Studies, and a doctorate in Social Development, all from the University of the Philippines, Diliman. Her research and extension work are in the areas of gender and development and gender and the economy. Let's all welcome Dr. Natalie Africa Verceles.
So before we go on to our speakers, please allow me to introduce them.
Yes.
I'll start with Radem Musawa, the Muslim gay guy. Radem Musawa is a Moro filmmaker and LGBTQI activist from Zamboanga City. His volunteer work has seen him organizing social awareness of events, web shows, campaigns, and training focusing on HIV and AIDS, LGBTQI rights, and peace building for vulnerable and marginalized sectors in Mindanao. Radem is also one of the core members of Mindanao Pride, a communication official of Mujer LGBT Inc. He was also former festival director of Pink Shorts Art Festival and is one of the 2019 alumni of the Thomson Reuters Changemaker program. So that's one of our first speaker, Radem, the Muslim gay guy. And next we have Reverend Joseph San Jose from Open Table MCC. Reverend Joseph San Jose is a pastor of Open Table MCC in Mandaluyong, a local chapter of the Metropolitan Community Church, which claims to be the first Christian denomination that accepted and advocated for LGBTQI+ persons. He finished his Master of Divinity from the Union Theological Seminary, graduating summa cum laude. Open Table MCC and Reverend Joseph are part of Amplify Asia, the largest network of LGBTQI affirming Christians in Southeast Asia. He has been a speaker in various universities such as LPU, PUP, PNU, PWU, and UP Diliman on the intersectionality of progressive Christian theology and SOGIE. Our third speaker is Reverend Rolando Comon from the Kadua Movement Equality. Reverend Rolando Comon is an ordained clergy of the Corellian Nativist Church, which is based in Danville, Illinois, USA, and a dedicated member of the Order of Peace Weaver and International Peace Warrior. He is also founder and chief priest of Luntiang Aghama Natural Divine Arts Shrine of Healing, Incorporated, a revivalist and reconstructionist church on Philippine indigenous spirituality. This church established an outreach ministry program for the LGBTQI+ community in the Philippines, with activities gaining recognition from the Parliament of World Religion, an international group of interfaith churches. Through the Kadua movement, they have gathered LGBTQI+ members online and through the ministry. They have also conducted compassionate acts of kindness to people in the Philippines. Our fourth speaker is Mitzi Nicole Angeles from Catholics for Equality. Mitzi Nicole Angeles is a fourth-year student taking up Bachelor of Science in Child Development and Education and is currently the sanggunian ng mag-aaral ng Miriam Chair. I'm assuming, Mitzi, please correct us later. Internal Vice President for the College of Education. She's also a member of Catholics for Equality and the Internal Vice President of the Parish Youth Ministry in the Diocesan Shrine and Parish of Our Lady of the Abandoned Marikina. Mitzi also serves as choir member of the St. Thomas of Aquinas Choir and the Ola Grand Choir of Ola Marikina, and as member of the Ministry in Social and Human Development of Ola Marikina. So pleasure for me to introduce our four speakers, and we'll get on into our discussion. So I'll start. Again, I'd like to remind our speakers that before you answer, if you could please state your name. That is the request of our sign language interpreters. Okay, ready na ba? Okay, sige. So the first question is, please tell us, what are the common experiences and unique challenges that LGBTQI people in your particular religion face? Who would like to start? Yung maraming notes, si Radem. Sige, Radem. He's muted. Radem, you're muted.
Hello. Oh, hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're good.
Yeah, okay. Oh, hi. Assalamualaikum to everyone and to all the organizers from UP and also the partners and also our discerning audience for today. And I just want to inform everyone that unlike the rest of our co-panelists, I am not a religious expert or scholar. All I can share are the knowledge I learned from my years of experience doing human rights work, peace mission in Mindanao, interfaith dialogue between the Jewish and Muslim community in North Africa and also in the Middle East, which highly talks about peace, diversity, and coexistence. So going back with the question, what are the common experiences unique? I categorize, ang dami kong notes, no? So I categorize it into a, two category, one which is outside our homes and one inside our homes. So I'll start with outside our homes. So a lot of challenges that faith people from the Muslim community are experiencing are employment issue, health issue, government programs, rights and justice. And one of these, let's start with employment issues. So for example, I have this person I know from Marawi City who's been working a lot in this, conservative institution. And until now, he's not being promoted simply because of his gender, which is he's a gay man. And there's also an issue as well when it comes to economic opportunity. Samira Gutok once told me this story that there is a parlor salon in Marawi City where they got fired at by people and may nilagay na plaster doon sa salon nila sa labas saying na stop what you're doing. So it was interpreted that a lot of people don't like the, because most of the people who works in our salons are people from LGBT community. So there are a lot of hatreds in regards to that among the communities in Marawi. So that's one of the example as well. And for example, for the next one is health. There is this association na pag bakla ka, automatic may HIV ka or AIDS. That always happens in the health system and health environment in Mindanao as well. So for example as well, for the next one, government programs, I had this session once with Philippine Commission on Women, which talks about program about women. And there is these officials from Mindanao, which, the topic of the program was, we were talking about what are the best program we could create for the women in Mindanao. And I raised an issue about, what about the issue about the, women of diverse SOGIE, for example, lesbian, trans man, or trans women. And they said they will be dealt or addressed in accordance to that they are really standard female category. So that boils an issue because our brothers and sisters who are trans man, lesbians, they experience different violence and issues in Mindanao that are different from the issues being faced by the straight women. So that's one of the issues as well. And for the next one, for the rights, I have this one, transgender na binugbog in Sulu. And when nag-complain siya doon sa police station, the police official right away said na, baka hindi ka nagbayad. So instead of helping them right away, they are passing the blame to this gender marginalized group, saying na binugbog ka kasi hindi ka nagbayad siguro, or sort of like this. And there's next one, which is justice. There is this issue in Zamboanga City one time that there is there's a guy who murdered a gay guy and stabbed him multiple times. And this guy is known to be a very homophobic guy in Zamboanga City. And the authorities and also some of the media automatically disregard that issue, that it is, hate crimes. He is being killed because he was, gay. And so those are the discriminations being faced by the Muslim communities, gender marginalized, which is the Muslim community outside our homes. And we have also this issue category, which is inside our homes, which I call, the family style conversion therapies as well. So we have this issue of domestic and physical abuse. This is also happens, especially now na naka-lockdown tayo, no? And all of the LGBT youths are confined and stuck with their family na who are not accepting of their gender. And there is one which is abandonment and financial cutoff. And the next one is also forced marriage and organized rape. So those are the issues being faced by gender marginalized group in the Muslim community within the circle of their family or home. So those are the categories that being experienced a lot by the gender groups, especially in Mindanao.
Thank you, Radem. Can we hear from Reverend Joseph or Reverend Kumon? Are there similar experiences also in your faiths? So this is
yes.
Reverend Kumon. Oh, it's Reverend Joseph. Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Pastor. Well, the common, nasabi na ni Madam Percy kanina, one of the common things is that LGBT people continue to be people of faith. There's a lot of LGBT people that continues to be malalim ang kanilang pananampalataya. In terms of the struggle or challenges, medyo magkakaiba. Merong different degrees of or situations of discrimination and rejection depending on which particular church group or denomination that you come from. In my observation, for example, Roman Catholic churches, parishes, and families have some level of tolerance, but mas tolerant. Merong mas common ang tolerance and acceptance sa mga Roman Catholic families and churches. As of course, officially it's not yet accepted. But pag pumunta ka na sa mainline Protestant or Protestant evangelical churches, mas matindi. Mas matindi yung discrimination, rejection ng pamilya, rejection ng simbahan sa kanila. And sa amin sa simbahan namin, since we are somewhat of a group that receives people of diverse Christian backgrounds, common na naririnig namin na dumarating sa aming simbahan ang mga Protestants who, for example, anak ng pastor, anak ng elder ng church, from Protestant background, and we hear stories and experiences ng talagang pag-disown, removal from ministry. No, they are leaders sa church nila, music ministry, dance ministry, and once na nalaman yung kanilang SOGIE, they are removed because hindi sila according to that their church teaching, hindi sila acceptable to lead in a church. So ganon. So merong different challenges depending on which church group you actually come from.
Okay. So there are different levels pala, no? Of discrimination experience depending on which Protestant evangelical church the individual belongs to. Can we hear now from Reverend Comon? Reverend, paano naman
yes,
po?
this is...
Sige po. Yes, Reverend Comon.
Okay, this is Reverend Rolando Comon. Pwede niyo po akong tawagin bilang Apo Admanagama. Actually, masaya ako narinig ko ang bahagi ng Islam at bahagi ng mga Kristiyanong SOGIE, no? Pero kung pagbabasihan natin sa aming simbahan, wala namang gaanong discrimination sa loob, no? Pero ang problema ay sa society. Since ang aming relihiyon ay pinaka-minority of the religion here in the Philippines as indigenous or pagan, kung merong dalawang impyerno, kami yung pinaka-impyerno. Dahil kasi una, pagano kami, sumasamba kami sa hindi Diyos ng Kristiyano at Diyos ng Muslim, impyerno na yon, di ba? Pangalawa, LGBT pa kami, so impyerno. So it's worse. Ang kinakaharap ng mga kaanib ng simbahan namin or mga indigenous culture, yung acceptance. Lalo na yung forced evangelization, tulad nga sabi ni Reda na merong conversion therapy. Although talamak to, hanggang ngayon ay talamak ang conversion therapy. Not in a means of sexual orientation but of cultural and religious faith para sa amin. Kaya sa usapin ng SOGIE equality at religious values sa amin, magkapantay yan eh. Kasi as a religious being or as a religious person, ang pangangalaga namin ay kaluluwa. Kaya nga lang hindi namin mapapangalagaan ang kaluluwa kung wala ang katawan ng tao. So dapat magkasama ang religious value at ang SOGIE equality. Kasi kung anong ginagawa mo ng katawan mo yan. Pero ang tungkulin namin bilang pare Babaylan ay pangalagaan ng iyong kaluluwa at bigyan ka ng gabay at liwanag sa iyong pamumuhay. Pero ang kinaharap namin ngayon sa aming simbahan ay hindi ang simbahan mismo, kundi ang panghuhusga ng lipunan sa aming pananampalataya at sa aming katauhan. Yun lamang po. Muna.
Salamat po, Reverend. At least nakarinig na po tayo ng isang simbahan na solace po, no? Na pwede pong maasahan na maaalagaan po ang ating mga kapatid na kasapi ng LGBTQI community. Ngayon naman po, Nicole, can we hear from you? Si Nicole po is representing the Catholic faith, which, as you know, represents also the vast majority of Filipinos. So, Nicole, can you tell us, in your experience, what are the common challenges faced by Catholics who are also members of the LGBTQI community?
All right. So, ako po, as a Catholic who is pretty much exposed with other Catholics since I was a child, I noticed that Catholics are much more accepting towards the LGBTQI community today than before. If not accepting, at least they do not say much about the community po. I noticed this when the Metro Manila Pride March happened here in Marikina last year. So, as expected po kasi, diba, the march is a big and long march. There were people everywhere, heavy traffic was expected, roads were closed, and it was quite noisy too. And that event was quite a talk in our community for quite some time. And I was able to talk with different people in our church. Some are youth, some are the elderly, and I heard some who supported the march, and I heard also some who did not support the march that much. Yung mga nag-support po, nahati pa sila sa dalawa. Yung isa is yung nag-support talaga na they were the ones who went out the streets during the parade and included themselves in the parade. Meron ding iba na nanood ng parade, and they said that that parade was really something good for the community, na it's for raising awareness for everyone. Tapos yung isa naman is yung mga apathetic towards the community. Sila yung mga wala lang pake. They did not care about anything, did not go outside, and did not share news about it. Tapos meron akong friend na nakausap na apathetic siya, and she said that she is just neutral about the situation. She respects the community but does not really want to engage with the community. And lastly, yung isa naman is yung mga hindi talaga nagsusupport dun sa community, dun sa LGBTQI community. These people whom I was able to talk to were usually elders. One elder person told me that he thinks that this LGBTQI community is just a trend. Na sinasabi niya na, nako, kaya madami yan kasi gusto lang makigaya ng mga iba dyan. And another person, an elderly also, told me that when he saw Facebook posts of his friends na nakita niya sa simbahan and nakita niya dun sa march, sabi niya, he felt weird seeing them there kasi nakikita sila sa simbahan pero nakikita din sila dun sa march na yon. During that time, as a supporter of the LGBTQI community, I really wanted to voice out my opinion and really just tell them that religion doesn't really matter at this point. But then LGBTQI Catholics, or as youth in general, we have this high deference towards the elderly. And sometimes when you try to voice out your opinion to them, they would conclude you to be disrespectful. So that time, with a heavy heart, I still answered those people and just told them that, well, baka naman po talaga may reason kung bakit sila nandyan. Which is true because I believe that people na nag-a-attend sa mga ganitong march, sa mga ganitong webinar, meron tayong pinaglalaban dito. And it's not just, andito ako dahil cool ako. Which is yun yung gusto kong malaman nung ibang tao who discriminates us, that meron tayong pinaglalaban dito. You see, the common challenge talaga for LGBTQI Catholics is the judgments and discrimination of fellow Catholics, especially if you are commonly seen in our church and if you physically look like you are part of the LGBTQI community. For example, last example na po, during our youth camps, kunyari, kasi yung youth camp namin, it lasts for 3 days and 2 nights, so we have to stay sa campsite. So during room assignments, if a straight person, if a straight youth, for example, is grouped with a member of the LGBTQI community, those straight people will kind of joke na, naku, baka merong kang gawin pagka matutulog na tayo, or maybe they will say na they might not take the activity seriously. But then I realized that these kinds of discrimination stops then. I realized that when these people who discriminate are being ignored, they stop. And then when I also realized that when an LGBTQI person inside the church has already established his or herself, then you will be respected. Kahit bata sa'yo or kahit matanda sa'yo, you will be respected if mukha kang karespe-respeto. Yun lang po.
Okay, so thank you, Nicole. So Nicole actually touched on this. Are there trade-offs that need to be made in order to reconcile your faith and you're being an advocate of SOGIE equality? Are these two irreconcilable? And how do people in your faith manage to stay religious and at the same time hold on to the SOGIE advocacy? Who would like to reply? Please state your name.
Reverend Rolando,
Reverend
here. Okay,
Go
sige.
ahead. No, go ahead, Apo.
Okay, actually no, it can be reconcilable ang SOGIE equality and religious value. Although in our practice there are many people in our craft or in our religion na striving for spirituality, everyday spirituality, no? Yun yung problema, they neglect yung physical mundane activity yung mga tinatawag nating ascetic, 'di ba? Sobra ang pagiging spiritual nila. And they are preparing for the other life. Actually, too much spirituality nagiging dangerous din, no? Dahil kasi we have our body na dapat nating alagaan. Kung hindi, tumawid ka na lang sa kabilang buhay. So parang ganon din yung usapan ng SOGIE at ang religious value. You cannot, hindi mo kasi siya mapaghiwalay, no? Alam ko ang bawat simbahan tulad din namin na naniniwala na merong katawan at merong kaluluwa. Ang katawan natin ay yung SOGIE, sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression. And that is what is our body all about. But this body will not be alive without the guidance of the Spirit. It can be reconciled. And a church that will not accept the SOGIE equality is not accepting the body of the person will not be. Yun nga yung sinasabi sa inaalok ng simbahan, 'di ba? This is the body of Christ. Kailangan nyo makiisa sa katawan. But without acceptance of our uniqueness, of our individuality, it will not be, no? So, ang nagiging kalaban lang po natin dito is yung fear, ignorance, at saka yung discrimination. So, go ahead, Pastor Joseph.
Yeah. Pastor Joseph, tinuro ka na eh.
Yes. Well, there was a time that fighting for women's rights for a long time was incompatible with Protestant American Christian teaching, women's movement in the West. There was a time when slavery and racial segregation, fighting against slavery and racial segregation was incompatible to Christian beliefs once upon a time. Or interracial marriage, they cite biblical passages to support na bawal mag-asawa ang puti at ang itim. In many Western countries. But if we look at the history of many movements, of many liberation movements, at hindi siya masyadong nadidiscuss, but there are also influential people and groups that were motivated by their faith. For example, Martin Luther King Jr., palaging nadidiscuss ang kanyang importansya, influence, legacy sa civil rights movement, but hindi na may mention na isa pala siyang pastor. So I think it's the same thing with the LGBT or with the movement for SOGIE equality, that there are many people who are motivated by their faith to fight for equal rights, to fight for social justice, liberation. And so, hindi siya masyadong discuss, hindi natin siya masyadong alam, but the reconciliation of faith, sexuality, faith, and feminist articulation or feminist discourse is possible and has happened for almost forever, in as much as oppressors, mga oppressor ay ginagamit ang relihiyon to oppress others, the oppressed themselves use their faith and are motivated by their faith to fight for their rights, to fight for their dignity. So there is a way that minorities have always reconciled what may seem to be conflicting theological or social perspectives and practices. And likewise, it is the same with the LGBT. And yung denominasyon na kinabibilangan ko, Metropolitan Community Church, malalim ang kanyang pag-uugat sa gay liberation movement, sa LGBT liberation movement. We have been there from the very start of Stonewall, of the Pride marches. So siguro talagang napapanahon na mapag-usapan natin na hindi totoong walang religious sector sa mga liberation movement, sa mga human rights movement. Parte ang religious sector and religious people because we have a way of reconciling faith and sexuality, faith and justice.
Thank you, Reverend Joseph. Can we hear from yan? Nakataas na yung kamay ni Radem. Sige, Radem.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. Na-mention ni Rev Common yung hindrances and mga balakid, and na-mention rin ni Father Joseph yung history. So I would also try to dig into that. So I would like to talk as well about why is it the Moro people in Mindanao are a little bit having, challenges in accepting SOGIE equality or this idea of LGBT, no? I think this comes from the old culture and traditions and the lack of educational awareness on diversity in Mindanao. And for hundreds of years, the Moros were subject to various types of colonial aggressions. And until now, we can still feel the effect on it, where a lot of Moros still feel that they are left behind from the programs of the national government. But one of the achievements is the new creation of Barn. But anyway, so I think that added to the inability or refusal to understand SOGIE or the liberal version of human rights or modern version of human rights. And I think because of this historical oppression against the Moro, it created this sense of vanguardism that the people in the north are just trying to infiltrate everything, everything the Moros own. And one of the balakid as well is that, if I may add, there are growing campaign of Wahhabi Salafi movement, and this is a movement propagating their strict version of Islam, inserting their religious politics and influence in the world, and that includes here in the Philippines. There are many Muslims who doesn't even know what SOGIE is, and most of us in Mindanao associate SOGIE automatically with LGBT and homosexuality and immorality, when in fact even heterosexual people have SOGIE. And there's really nothing to reconcile because there are elements of SOGIE as well even in the Quran. It's just that it's just a matter of us in strategically deliver a proper message that the Muslim would understand what SOGIE is all about. And that is, and also we also need straight SOGIE equality champions, especially in Mindanao, that will talk in the Muslim dominated region areas, because it will be hard for LGBT people to just go in, for example, in Marawi and talk about SOGIE. It should be somebody, a straight individual from the inside, who will talk about SOGIE, kasi they would feel less, SOGIE would be less threatening for the Muslim community. And also, the problem also boils down to how SOGIE equality advocates send these messages. For some reason, when we try to educate or talk about SOGIE, we don't really talk about in the language where the Muslim community can easily understand it. We talk SOGIE in the language from the north, from Metro Manila. So and that creates a communication barrier. So I think that's one of the problems, and they always feel threatened when SOGIE is being started, being talked about. But we have growing SOGIE equality supporters among the Muslim community, but sadly, most of them are afraid to speak out. And, it also depends, because there's a lot of ethno-linguistic groups of Muslim faiths in Mindanao, but there are three major groups, which is the Maranao, Maguindanaoan, and the Tausug. I came from the Tausug ethno-linguistic group, and we have different type of upbringing and accepting this kind of modern narrative. So that also affects our way of life there, and how we are brought up to fully accept and understand other people, and also about peace, diversity, and coexistence. And I want to cite an example as well, no? When Princess Giselle Kiram ran for Senate last 2016, there are a lot of conservative Tausug communities who rallied behind and supported her candidacy, even if she's a woman. Kasi in Mindanao, there's always this notion that they don't want to put women in the position of leadership. Kasi they said, you know, they can never be a good person in the position of power. But there were a lot of conservative people who supported Princess Giselle for the Senate. Unfortunately, she lost the candidacy, but I think that sends a message of progressiveness that people are already accepting to put someone, a woman, in the position of power. Unlike in the past, no, that they really against it. But when Samira Goto ran last year, there are a lot of conservative from central region of BARM who are against it and refuse to support her for the reason because she's a woman, and they said women are not equipped for higher leadership position. So that's where what I'm trying to point out, that there are various Muslim groups, and they have different type of upbringing and way of, you know, embracing modernity and coexistence and diversity, no, and also gender empowerment as well. And but we have growing numbers of people of faith who support gender marginalized group among the Muslim community. That I already said that a while ago, and I believe that one of the reasons behind this is the inevitability of globalization that leads to democratization of the world system, free trade, and access to multicultural society. It's just a matter of them being exposed in the idea of diversity, peace, and gender empowerment. I know a lot of conservative Muslim who migrated in Canada, US, and some part in Europe. They have grew to accept and embrace the sense of coexistence, and they already accepted the LGBT as well. And that's also a really big factor, is exposure to this kind of language, no? And in Mindanao as well, there's a lot of I have a lot of Muslim friends who protects the LGBT community in Mindanao from violence. And I think that's an improvement. So it's a little bit unfair when a lot of people would say that the Muslim community are not doing anything to, you know, to sort of follow the path in coexistence and peace. Actually, there's a lot of Muslims who are really okay with coexistence with the LGBT people. And also, they also protect them as well. So that's all.
Okay, thank you, Radem. Before we turn over the screen to Nicole, si Reverend Comon would like to say something about the lack of education. I'm sure by this, si Radem was referring to consciousness raising, awareness raising, not so much formal education. Sige po.
Yes, actually, no, parang, actually, ito yung paniniwala ko sa nakikita ko, no. It's not lack of education in terms of acceptance of SOGIE. Ang nangyari, masyadong ginaligan ng mga religious sectors such as the Catholic Church and the Islam ang kanilang religious education. Kaya ngayon, natabunan ang indigenous culture natin, ang acceptance for each one another. Dahil kasi nung unang panahon sa atin, wala namang discrimination. They parang ginagalang nilang, mataas ang paggalang nila sa mga LGBT, sa mga bakla at sa mga tomboy nung unang panahon. At sila pa nga ang nagiging babaylan, no? Dahil sila mga two-spirited people even on Native American culture. But because of ginalingan sa pagtuturo ng mga Katoliko at ng mga Islam tungkol sa lalaki-lalaki, babae-babae, at hindi nila kinilala ang gender, doon nagsimula ang discrimination. Kaya nung 1621, ang Babaylan Tamblot ng Bohol ay nagsimula ng revolusyon. I think nasabi ko to noong last year sa Metro Manila Pride March na ang unang nagprotesta about sa inequality nagaganap ay si Babaylan Tamblot. Gawa nga ng pagdidiskrimina sa SOGIE ng mga tao nung unang panahon. Yun lang ang challenge siguro natin ngayon. Tayo na lumalaban for SOGIE, is kailangan mas i-heighten natin, siguro mas palakasin pa natin ang pagtuturo. Kasi nga, ang tao mas convenient sa religious education na tanggap nila. Dahil ang religious education noon, no, ay merong masahol pa sa masahol pa sa espada eh. Kasi kung hindi ka manampalataya, dagat-dagatang apoy ka. Ayaw nila 'yon. At bukod pa doon, 'di ba, may pang-aalipin pang ginagawa. So ang indigenous spirituality, especially sa mga African or sa mga sa voodoo religion, ibang pagan religion, they found their spirituality as their own form of freedom. At yun din yung binabahagi natin. Ako nagpapasalamat ako dahil kasi merong Metropolitan Community Church na at least ma-express ng mga Kristiyano, uy, tanggap sila ni Kristo. Wala naman tinuro si Kristo about na, uy, bakla ka, bawal ka dito sa akin. I'm not very familiar with Islam, pero alam ko na ang maraming mga Muslim ang naghihirap, lalo na sa Saudi, to express themselves. Pero nabilib ako dahil kasi nagtrabaho din ako sa Saudi. Meron doon, sa labas nakatube siya, pero nung pumasok siya sa mall, naka-backpack short. Wow! Sabi ko, Muslim ka, Arabo ka, bakit hindi ka natatakot, hindi ka inuusig ng mga mutawa? Sabi niya, I'm a Saudi, I have a right here. Hindi naman ako maglalandi sa labas eh. At hindi naman ako maglalandi. I can wear whatever I want to wear. As long as pag nasa public place ako, I wear the proper clothing. At least sila merong karapatan, but the religious persecution towards other nationality na member also ng LGBT, yun lang ang nakakaalarma kasi ang laging pinapairal is yung religious education nila. Sobrang galing ng religious education at hindi nila makita na tao ka rin, kaluluwa ka din. Acceptance para sa individual. Yun lamang po sa ngayon.
Thank you, Reverend Cobon. Nicole, can you tell us, Nicole, how do we reconcile being a SOGIE advocate and at the same time being religious? Is it possible to be both without making any trade-off?
All right. So short answer lang po, no. I think yung clash kanina na pinagsasabihan, I think in terms of in Catholic religion, it also came from history, especially in traditional Catholic families then. Because these traditional Catholic families would always claim kung ano yung tinuturo ng Bible, which is God only created man and woman and no other gender. So parang doon po. But then I personally think that being an advocate of SOGIE and being a Catholic is very possible kasi I'd like to believe that I am a living proof that this is possible. And my other LGBTQI church members turned friends are among others who can prove that this is really possible no matter this is really possible because it is not a matter of compromising or sacrificing one's identity or being a SOGIE advocate and being religious over the other, but rather integrating both identities into one. Kasi hindi naman sa kailangan mong mamili kasi pwede naman siyang pagsabayan. I think I can explain more on this throughout the talk. So, yun po.
Okay. So, thank you, Nicole. Sige, si Radem is raising his hand. Sige, Radem. Please go ahead. Take the screen.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I just want to add na one of the problem as well being in the gender marginalized group in the Muslim community, no? Kasi in the Muslim community, you are already being demonized or being experiencing stigmatized because of homophobia. Then when you step out and for example, let's say you go to that community, the Christian community, and I hear a lot of non-Muslim as well who are trying to say na homophobia is a big issue in the Muslim community, blah blah blah. You should renounce your faith, blah 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 blah. And I think that's a little bit unfair because you are already being you are already experiencing Islamization or homophobia effects from the Muslim community. But when you step out of that, you're experiencing Islamophobia within the non-Muslim community. So it will be a challenge to reconcile your faith and gender, no? If all section of this country, it would still be difficult for you to fit in. You can never be one having a stronger faith and two being true to yourself with your, with your sexuality and gender. And that's also a really one of the challenges that we need to address, no, na homophobia is everyone's problem. And it's not gonna help if we're going to point out na mas malaking problema homophobia in the Muslim community. No, homophobia is our problem, and we need to come together and to address this. So that's all.
But Radem, homosexuality is not a problem.
Sorry?
You said homosexuality is a problem. I don't think homosexuality is.
No. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's a typo. Yeah, sorry. Thank you for correcting me. So homosexuality is not a problem, but we need to address that this won't gonna affect a lot of people, especially the younger generation as well. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Radem. Okay, I'm going to do a time check. It's 4:07, and I have 3 other questions. So there's a question that maybe not everyone needs to answer. It has to do with the myths or misconceptions that are attached to members of the LGBTQI community in your religion specifically. So are there particular myths and misconceptions, stereotypes that we should be destroying because they don't project positive images of members of the LGBTQI community?
Yeah, can I answer,
Yes.
Reverend Joseph?
Yes, Reverend Joseph, go ahead.
Siyempre, unang misconception is homosexuality is a sin. It is not. How we understand sexuality today, there is nothing in the Bible that speaks of sexuality as we know it today. As what psychology, as what sociology, or what anthropology has studied or has given us in terms of understanding sexuality and gender identity. So there is nothing in all of the 66 books, if you're Protestant, or 73 books, if you are Roman Catholic. There is nothing there that talks about sexuality as we understand, as we scientifically, academically understand it today. So it's a myth. It's a misconception that we continue to propagate that it is otherwise. Because this comes also from the myth or from the understanding, long tradition or understanding na ang tingin sa Biblia ay a literal word of God. The Bible is not the literal word of God. When we say inspired word of God, that does not necessarily mean literal, na para bang ang Diyos ay kumuha ng ballpen at nagsulat. So that's one of the Bible is a product of the different books of the Bible, depending on which Bible you are using, is a product of its time, of its ancient pre-modern time. And that there are particular contexts, historical, cultural contexts that shaped the Bible and what is written in the Bible, and that many parts of the Bible are relevant only to the time when they were written. The other misconception is that many pastors, religious leaders, especially in the Protestant tradition, says that because ang thinking nila ay ang Biblia ay literal na salita ng Diyos, so it is as if pag may binasa silang versikulo, kapitulo doon, it is as if it says what it reads. That is not true. Number one, the Bible that we have access today are translations. translation into English or translation into other languages to Filipino. And translation is already a form of interpretation. When you read the Bible, you interpret the Bible. There is no, you don't read the Bible tabula rasa, na para bang hindi mo bit-bit ang iyong preconceived ideas of your modern context pag binabasa mo yung Bible. So many of the misconceptions about LGBT and SOGIE among the Abrahamic religions, they are nothing more than just interpretations, bad interpretations at that. These are bad interpretations that did not take into account the historical and social context of the 6 biblical passages that seems to be talking about homosexuality. Yun nga ang interpretation nila ng Sodom and Gomorrah, di ba? Ang kwento ng Sodom at Gomorrah ay napaka-famous na ginagamit ng mga anti-LGBT, anti-SOGIE people. Is nothing more than a superficial and selective reading of the story without really a closer analysis of the story. In Genesis 19, and it has a similar story in Judges 19. Pero hindi nila kino-quote yun. So, I cannot discuss an entire study of the 6 passages. I just invite people to look into the book Love, Loss in Translation by Love, Loss in Translation, Homosexuality in the Bible by Dr. Renato Lings, where he looks at the original language, the different translations of the Bible, and where did we get it wrong interpreting those 6 passages. And yon, so largely babalik tayo sa education, babalik tayo sa mas scientifico o mas academic na pag-aaral ng Biblia. You know, there are actually biblical scholars that are atheists and agnostic, biblical scholars, and that the study of the Bible, the scholarly study of the Bible for the last 200 years from Princeton, Yale, Harvard, Oxford, Vanderbilt, and other centers of biblical studies have already told us that in order to understand passages in the Bible, you have to take into consideration the context to see if that particular passage and its context is still relevant to us today. So, yon. Sa pinag-uusapan natin ngayon, ano ang myth or one of the misconception is homosexual. The myth and the misconception is homosexuality is a sin. It is not. Sexuality as we know today is not present in the Bible or during the time of the writers of the Bible. They did not understand sexuality as we understand it today.
Thank you, Reverend Joseph. Okay, I see Ramen. Radem, I see you raising your hand. But if before you speak, may I please accommodate the request of Reverend Comon to talk about a particular myth about the gender of God. Yes.
Yes, thank you, Ma'am Natalie. Actually, I agree with Doc Joseph, Reverend Joseph, na homosexuality is not a sin. Pero bakit nga ba naging kasalanan ang pagiging bakla at tomboy sa Abrahamic religion, no? Ito ay patungkol sa paniniwala nila sa Diyos, na ang Diyos ay lalaki, na ang ginawa ng Diyos ay lalaki at babae lamang at wala ng iba pa. Pero hindi ba natin naiisip na ito na ang paniniwala natin sa Diyos bilang isang lalaki lang o bilang babae lang ay isang pamahiin o mitolohiya din, no? Para sa amin bilang katutubo, pinakikita natin maaring sa kasaysayan ang duality of nature ng God natin, na kung ang God ay creator, tagapaglikha, paano siya lilikha sa sarili niya kung wala siyang kasama, no? we believe that there is one God, and in God, in order to create, there is the power of creation of the masculine and the feminine. So it is there in one person, such as sa indigenous faith. Kung ang pangalang Bathala ng Katagalugan ay pinaniniwala ang lalaki, pero merong nasusulat na ang Bathala din ay isang babae. Gayon din ang diwatang Lakapati na sa anyong babae, pero siya rin ay isang lalaki, isang lakan. At kung pag-aaralan din ang mitolohiyang Pilipino na si Mayari, diwata ng buwan, pero sa ibang bahagi ng bansa, siya ay si Apong Malyari na isang lalaki. There is duality in the concept of God. It is not entirely patriarchal or matriarchal. It's not entirely masculine or feminine. Both are essential, such as on the concept of yin and yang, the male and the female, or of the night and the day. It is all equal. Siguro bilang indigenous, bilang Luntiang Agama, bilang Pagano dito sa Pilipinas, no, yun din yung aming itinuturo, ang balance and harmony of our gender. Sa bawat isa sa atin, anyo man tayong lalaki, anyo man tayong babae, pero ang bumuo sa'yo, kinailangan mo ang nanay at tatay mo, yung energy ng nanay mo at tatay mo, nagsama. So within you, that beautiful body, beautiful creature tayo, ang energy natin ay masculine and feminine. Both are needed. So kaya nga siguro kung para maputol yung mitolohiya or pamahiin or kasabihan na ang bakla ay isang pagkakasala, siguro tuwirin din natin ang ating pag-iisip tungkol sa pagtingin natin sa lumikha sa atin. Yun din, minsan, nung bata ako, parang dahil kasi high school ako, kung di nyo po malalaman, isa rin po akong Bible Baptist bago ako naging pagano, no? Grabe, pastor, alam mo siguro ang teolohiya, ang katuraan sa Bible, very fundamentalist, no? Pag lalaki ka, bawal ka magsuot ng kung ano man. Pag babae ka, bawal kang magsuot ng pantalon. Ganon, no? Kaya minsan naisip ko, siguro yung bakla, merong ibang Diyos, merong ibang lumikha sa kanila. So, habang lumalaki ako at inaakap ko ang katotohanan, para nakita ko, isa lang naman pala ang Diyos. Pero bakit ganon? Bakit yung dominant religion, sinasabi lalaki lang ang Diyos? Paano nga ang babae? So iba rin ba ang Diyos ng mga babae kung ang Diyos natin ay lalaki? So I think it's a myth na dapat nating tawag dito, bigyan ng katotohanan o pag-aralan at tanggapin para maunawaan ng lahat. At kung maunawaan natin ang katayuan ng Panginoon, malalaman natin na ang lahat ay nilikha niya na dapat nating mahalin para wag natin silang husgahan. Yan lamang po.
Salamat po, Reverend Comon. Diyan po nag-iiba ang indigenous spirituality, hindi po ba? Sa ibang relihiyon na may teksto. So siguro pwede tayong hindi po ba? Si Radem may idadagdag. Gusto natin marinig ang Muslim perspective. Ano po ang mga myths and conceptions about LGBTQI individuals among Muslim people?
First, no, I agree with Rev Comon that he is lang yung Diyos. And I might get in trouble with this, but again, I'm not a religious scholar, so I'm just citing opinion. Yung sa akin kasi is, Quran for me is guidance on how we should live our life. So it is not really gonna be like kung ano nakalagay dyan, straight tong i-follow mo yan. Kasi it was written way back. But anyway, so like the Christian communities, most of the Muslim fundamentalists always use the Quranic chapter to justify their hostility and sometimes violence towards the gender marginalized group, no? And that is the story of Lot. And in the Christian Bible, it is the same as the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. But you know what? In my understanding and interpretation as well, and also some of my Muslim scholar friends from other countries, no, sabi nila the story of Lot isn't really about homosexuality per se, but it is about the rape, in hospitality, violence, robbery. The Quran condemned the act. It didn't really condemn homosexual. So, and in the old Islamic jurisprudence, no, na if there is silence, there is acceptance. So in Quran, very rare na may mention yung homosexuals. So probably if you would apply the old Islamic jurisprudence na if there is silence, there is acceptance, so most probably na hindi masyadong big deal at that time na yung mga homosexuals. But of course, in the story of Lot, in the Quran, they condemn highly the act, but not the homosexuals. But the Quran as well always talks about forgiveness, understanding that it is only the Almighty Allah who can give and deliver the final judgment. So where are all these hates from the faith community or Muslim community coming from? If Allah itself will be the only one who can, give the judgment. So might as well just wait if Allah would put the LGBT in hell or would put them in heaven, So yun lang.
Sige. Thank you, Radem. Nicole, is there something you want to add as a Catholic?
Okay. As a Catholic, eto po. A common misconception po for the Catholic LGBTQI members po is that they are seen to be displaced in our church. For example, they are seen as displaced and they are in charge of the displaced. Which is not true. Parang lagi silang sinasabi na sila lang yung tiga-arrange ng flowers. Tapos as a Catholic kasi di ba parang meron kaming saints. And then as LGBTQI, especially gay, they are seen to be sila lang yung tiga-bihis dun sa mga santo and nothing else. Which is not true. Because let's put it this way po. I will make myself and my gay friend as an example. We are both members of the LGBTQI community. And we are both members of the same church organization. I physically do not look like I am a part of the LGBTQI community, while my friend does, as he embodies and identifies himself as gay based on what others' judgment and definition, especially kasi with the way he walks, the way he acts, and the way he dresses. Obviously, the one who will get more judgment is my friend who looks like one kasi siya yung nakikita na mukha talaga siyang part ng LGBTQI. The people, especially yung mga churchgoers, they would usually say that my friend is just a display, that he is loud, that all he can do is entertain others, hosting lang kaya niyan. Papansin yan, malande, or maarte, or he can just attract attention from other people. While I, who represent the normal-looking church workers, sila yung sinasabi nila kami yung gumagawa ng more serious things like I can do the planning and the logistics, etc. But the truth is, we are just the same. We basically do the same things and tasks, just like what other members do who do not identify as LGBTQI. We all plan for the event, we all plan for the logistics, we all attracted attention if we needed to, and we all have the same faith and belief in him, which is the same. We have the same faith and belief in him with the same goal, which is to spread the devotion of our patroness and to speak God's good news. Kung magkakaiba man po kami, gender-wise, it is because we have different strengths and abilities. There are a lot of LGBTQIs who can dance or choreograph. Some are great singers, some are great actors and actresses. Some are great in designing collaterals. Some can drive, and then LGBTQIs can cook, can sew, can do carpentry when needed in our activities, especially sa TYM kasi kami yung mas parang sa mga stage plays and all that. Yes, these can be done by everyone, including the LGBTQI. Hindi lang sila display, hindi lang sila tiga bihis ng santo and all that. And if we look at that, if we work together as one, looking past our differences in sexuality and gender identity and utilizing our own individual strengths to our advantage, we will have a great activity as a result. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. Okay, so we're going to proceed to our next question. So is it safe to say that, with the exception of Reverend Common, all of us represent minority views in our religions? That these are still not mainstream views? So if we were going to make a case for SOGIE equality religious value, in order just to mainstream the correctness of the idea that SOGIE equality is the same as all equality, all social justice issues that we are fighting for, can you please refer us to particular tenets and teachings of your religion that will strengthen our claim that SOGIE equality is a religious value that should be upheld? So who would like to start? Where can we start?
Ayan, hello
I'll turn
po.
off my video. Sige, I'll turn off my video kasi just to save on my bandwidth. Sige, Nicole, do you want to start?
All right, okay po. So the first, for me, yes, it is a religious value because equality itself is a religious value, no? I would like to cite a Bible verse. It's from John chapter 13, verse 34. God said, "A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another." And in relation, Mark chapter 12, verse 31 says, "The second is this, love yourself, you love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these." These two verses teaches us how to love each other equally without excluding anyone, without judgment, without prejudice, without hate. This includes people of all gender, no matter how they look or how they act. We are also taught to respect one another, as God said that He created us in His own image and likeness, as if when we see another person, we should see God in that person as well. Thus, we need to respect that person and show compassion in a way towards that person. And lastly, in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 8 to 9, it says, "For the grace you have been saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, not of works, lest anyone should boast." Yes, we are all sinners, but the Bible says that Jesus died on the cross to save everyone from sins. He did not exclude anyone. He saved us then, and He is saving us now, for He is a forgiving God. And as Catholics, let us not be hypocrites to our own teachings. Just as Jesus saw everyone on the same level, so should we. But also, let me tell you this, that Pope Francis said, and I quote, "Tendencies, homosexuality tendencies included, are not sins. If you have a tendency to anger, it is not a sin. Now, if you are angry and hurt people, the sin is there." This basically implies that as long as you are not doing something that can harm other people, as long as you have the strong faith in God, nothing and no one can stop you to glorify His name. We have equal rights to His salvation and to His presence. There are no exceptions.
Okay, so that's our Catholic argument. Thank you, Nicole. Who would like to share next? Can we hear from the Protestant evangelical churches? Yes, please go ahead, Reverend Joseph.
Yeah. What is the question? Is SOGIE a religious value? Is that the question?
We're assuming it is, of course, because equality, it should be a religious value, but we want you to strengthen the argument for that using particular teachings of your faith.
Okay. So for me, understanding the question, I think that equality is a particular condition in a particular goal that demands certain values. So when we say equality, it is a condition where everyone's dignity, everyone's rights is respected, recognized, protected, and celebrated. So equality in itself, in how I understand the question and answering it, equality itself is not a value. It is a goal. It is a condition and a vision that we are working towards. And that particular equality demands certain values on our part, whether you're religious or not religious. On the religious part, equality, as what Mitzi said, is grounded on the idea that everyone, at least in the Judeo-Christian faith, everyone is created in the image and likeness of God. Therefore, every single human being that has been born, regardless of categories, regardless of whatever backgrounds, each and every human person that is born is created in the image of God. Therefore, that person has dignity, has rights, has worth, has value. Now, that demands that we, one of the things about Christianity, if we study the history of Christianity, in the first 100 years of Christianity, they had a sense of community, and their sense of community was radically inclusive. So what the value that equality demands is actually inclusion and a sense of common good, justice. And inclusivity is at the core of the ministry and message of and life of Jesus Christ. No, when he ministered and went about preaching the kingdom of God, he tried to include as many people into his movement. And he included. He was very intentional to include people who were recognized as those that were rejected by his society and by his religion. Prostituted and discarded women, Samaritans, people that are racially different from the Jews, tax collectors, lepers. So Jesus tried to intentionally included people who were unacceptable to his society and his religion. And so inclusivity, that is part of how we achieve equality, is at the core of the Christian faith. The Christian faith, the reason why it expanded and it grew, because its original message was that each person has value and they have to be included in God's family, in God's table. At na-interpret nga to ni Paul in his letter to the Galatians na, when we are in Christ, there is neither Gentile or Jew, there is neither slave or free, there is neither male and female. Everyone is one in Christ. So, babalik nga tayo sa history, nag-e-evolve ang theological discourse, nag-e-evolve ang biblical interpretation, and it evolves towards a more inclusive, a more just a society when you go back to the original message of who Jesus is and what Jesus lived for and died for, which is to include people, which is to bring equality and justice to all people. Salamat po.
Yeah, thank you, Reverend Joseph. Who would like to respond next? Do we have Reverend Comon or
Yes. Just to answer, yes, Ma'am Natalie, no, just to answer what tenet or teaching in our religion can prove this. Actually, before we began, we have a goals need to meet. No, the first goal that we have to meet is first is to know yourself, and pertaining to SOGIE and equality, it can be categorized into the goal number 5, which is achieve balance. We see balance of everything in our life. It's not only into our being, but also towards the society. So yung SOGIE value, SOGIE as a religious value, ay pinapahalagahan po natin dahil nandun yung pagiging balance natin of who we are. No, actually it's not only on our sexuality or parang behavior, no, sa behavior ng pag-uugali natin, kung sino ang gusto nating makatalik or ano yung pananaw natin, no, kundi paano natin din tatanggapin ang ibang tao sa ating kapwa. We need to balance to be in harmony with other people. So our religion, our church is more tama, maganda yung sinabi ni Pastor Joseph of of inclusiveness, no, we include everyone also, and we accept everyone also, not only human beings pero pati mga unseens na rin, dahil kasi being responsible towards our action not only to human beings but also to nature. So ito yung napakahalagang katuruan na pinapairal ng mga indigenous culture and religion.
Okay.
Yun lang.
So, thank you, Reverend Comon. So, si Radem daw ay nagkakaroon ng technical difficulty because he disappeared from our panel. So, maybe we'll proceed to the next question, and if Radem can add something, we'll just go back to him, no? So, my second to the last question, the penultimate question is, how do we then engage within our religious sectors? Referring to people who are for us and and not with us in promoting SOGIE equality. Please tell us also about current efforts by people of faith in the fight for SOGIE equality, and how can we enhance these efforts. So who would like to start? Sige.
Okay.
I'll call you. Sige. Nandiyan ka na rin naman. Sige po. So, Reverend Comon po, para sa interview.
Okay. Actually, no, nagpapasalamat din ako dahil parang nagkaroon ng pagkakataon na ganito. Although, nagsimula akong sumali sa Metro Manila Pride March, nagkaroon ako ng kahilingan or parang suggestion na sana magkaroon nga ng interfaith movement ang SOGIE para mas lalong magkaroon ng acceptance, hindi lamang ang religious point of view, dahil kasi parang dito ako ay indigenous culture, si Pastor Joseph Kristiyano, at ngayon si Reden ay Muslim. Meron tayong common denominator. We are LGBT at pinagmamahal natin. At sa atin, sa gitna natin, hindi natin nakita na magkakaaway tayo ng relihiyon. Nakita natin na meron tayong puso ng pagmamahalan. At bilang isang minorya na relihiyon dito sa Pilipinas, yun din po yung ginagawa namin, no, bilang simbahan ay sinisikap namin magkaroon ng visibility or interfaith visibility para magkaroon ng pag-uusap. At nalaman ko na ang magkaroon ng kapayapaan sa bawat isa, hindi lamang sa isyung politikal, sosyal, pati na rin sa emosyonal at mental ng bawat bahagi ng LGBT community, dahil ang LGBT community ay bahagi ng ating mamamayan. Kung baga, parang sa isa sa ministeryo namin, Luntiang Agama, is ang healing o panggagamot. Gagamutin ka namin, hindi ka namin tatanungin, lalaki ka ba, babae ka ba, bakla ka ba, tomboy ka ba, Pilipino ka ba, foreigner ka ba, anong reliyon ka? Acceptance. Kasi may pangangailangan ka eh. Tutugunan namin ang iyong pangangailangan. At bilang simbahan, bukas ang aming pintuan para tanggapin kayo at pagsilbihan kayo ayon sa inyong pangangailangan. So yun yung parang tugon ng simbahan namin sa sa tanong ng SOGIE equality. Yun po.
Sige, thank you, Reverend Comon. Radem, you're back. Radem, so would you like to answer that question? How should we engage both sides of the polls in terms of our advocacy? And then, kasi you disappeared, baka you also want to tell us if, for you, SOGIE equality is a religious value, and how we can strengthen that claim using teachings of your faith. So, dalawang question ka na.
Yes, sorry, I apologize. Naubos yung load ko. Wow.
Ito na yung problem. Okay.
And anyway, so I have a lot of notes here and verses from the Quran, which we could use for promoting SOGIE equality, no? But if I'm going to read all of it, we will never have time. So I'll cite na lang the verses, which is the Baqarah verse 62, and Baqarah verse 256, Maida 46, Hujurat 49. Those are the verses that really talk so much about peace, diversity, coexistence, understanding, acceptance. They really speak highly about those values, no, and those verses we can use in strengthening our SOGIE equality messaging, for the Muslim community will be able to fully understand and embrace the idea of SOGIE. Kasi we have we have wrong association of SOGIE kasi in Mindanao, in the Muslim community. So we need to break that as well. So that's the first question. What was the next question? Sorry.
So how do we engage the various sectors in terms of promoting our advocacy for SOGIE equality in the religious sa religious sector, and also what are the efforts currently being done by Muslims?
Okay. I'll try to make it a little bit quicker. You know what? If you're in Mindanao, especially in BARM, you would notice that there are growing numbers of women rights activists within the faith communities of Muslims. No, now in the past there were really few or almost next to nothing. So that's a really improvement there, and we could tap those activists to strengthen our SOGIE narrative. So they will be the one who will be championing the SOGIE messaging to the community who they can influence or already trusting them. Kasi if tayo kasi from the north will be the one delivering it, it will be very threatening. So and I would also cite an example. I want to cite an example. There is a place in Zamboanga City, no, na a Muslim barangay, very conservative Muslim barangay, where the first mosque in Zamboanga Peninsula were built. And this barangay is very conservative. But this barangay are protecting their LGBT community. And at the same time, they're also helping them to go to school, get a job, and start a business. And I think this is a good narrative that there are conservative Muslim barangay community that embraces their LGBT community, no, and not just throw them away like, you know, a lot of chismes about the Muslim community are doing, no. And you know what, one of the nice thing as well na I've met the figurehead of this barangay, and he's also one of the conservative elder. And I was so happy when I met him, no, kasi he told me, he mentioned, he told me just last January, no, sabi niya, he might not fully support the idea of homosexuality because of his faith, but he sees the LGBT community in his barangay as his family, his people, and if the Philippine government will pass civil union for them, he will be happy to comply and marry them. And I think that's a progressive, an improvement. And for an elder and for a father figure for our conservative barangay to utter such word. And that's a really nice messaging there that there are barangay and community that really will embrace and protect the LGBT. And mahaba na eh. So yun.
Pero maganda, may good news, di ba? It gives us hope. It gives us cause for optimism. So lastly, so talagang hindi tayo dapat sumuko eh. So now we have Reverend Joseph. You want to weigh in on this question?
How do you engage the religious sector in the advocacy, the activism for SOGIE? I'm glad that last year, finally, naging part ng conversation ang mga progressive religious groups sa Senate hearing, no? And that you have pastors, a Bible scholar, a bishop of the United Methodist Church that were there supporting, arguing, discoursing why it is theological, why is it biblical to support equality and the protection of LGBT, non-discrimination of LGBT. Yon, siguro it's a good, because I don't know if there was any such similar action in the past, 18 years na ba yung SOGIE bill? If there was such a meeting of religious sector and the advocates of SOGIE. Pero magandang umpisa yon that we would build relationship and networks among the progressive religious groups, because there are progressive religious groups among the different Christian denominations. And so we have to engage them for their voice. At the same time, they are struggling, the other churches are struggling with the idea of inclusion and safe space for LGBT in their churches. So in that sense, we can also help them to create their churches to be more inclusive, to be more welcoming of the LGBT. Right now, the United Church of Christ in the Philippines and the Aglipayan Church, the IFI, have declared on their national level that they are now accepting of LGBT, that they have official policy. Yung Aglipay Church nga has, in their statement, has apologized for the ways that the Aglipay Church has harmed and perpetuated harm against LGBT. Yung to engage the fundamentalists, no. Wag na nating, because there's no sense to engage them. The only time that you engage them is if it is in a proper forum with the largest audience, so that the audience who have not decided their minds and their hearts about the SOGIE equality can hear both sides. But we do not engage those whose 100% commitment is to continue the oppression of LGBT based on their religious interpretation. So we don't engage them anymore kung hindi naman nagpapalawig ng usapin at ng diskurso.
So pragmatic ka rin, Reverend.
Yes.
We have to pick our allies and also pick our battles. Okay. Yes. Now, we want to hear from the Catholic perspective kasi alam natin na very rigid din thinking about issues of SOGIE within the Catholic Church. Nicole, can you tell us, what can we do? How should we engage the religious sector?
All right. So, for me po, I think that the best way to promote SOGIE equality by those part of the LGBTQI community and advocates of SOGIE is to join and be active in their religion. Like, do something that would debunk the negative notions of the people in the community. For example, just recently, I think it was last week, I saw a news that came out that Pope Francis gave funds to a small transgender community who is struggling to fight against coronavirus in Italy. That act showed that even the Pope, the head of the Catholic Church, can promote SOGIE in his way. It showed that he did not only care about the people outside the LGBTQ community, but also the people inside. In a more personal example, my friends and I noticed that people in our church became more accepting of the LGBTQI community nowadays because we are seen to be doing something others thought we cannot do, which is serving in our church as youth ministers, as choir members, as social service ministers, as social communication ministers, etc. But if you would ask me if should people be a part of these established organizations and really expose themselves for them to promote what they are promoting, the answer is actually no. Like, I think being seen in a Catholic organization is just a plus because doing other simple things matter too, like donating goods to charity, visiting orphanages, or doing some simple apostolate activities will do. Like, you do not even have to boast or even promote everything you do to be seen in social media that you are promoting what you are promoting. You just have to be sincere. And once you have established your ways, yourself, your organization, if you're trying to build one, people will notice you and they will look up to you, to what you do. After all those, you'll be able to realize that you were successful in promoting not only SOGIE equality, but also by practicing your faith. Yun lang.
Okay. So now we'll go to our last question before we proceed to the open forum. So we need to hear from everyone. Okay, we please request that all of you give a message to LGBTQI individuals of faith in the Philippines. So speak to people of your faith. Give them hope, more hope. Sige po, who will start? Nicole, you're on the... Sige, si Reverend. Sige, Reverend.
Sige. Actually, bago ko kausapin ang mga taong bayan, ang mga LGBT people, gusto ko lang ikwento sa inyo, no? Dahil kasi ang pagtatayo ng simbahan dito sa Pilipinas, lalo na ng pagano, indigenous, isang malaking hamon sa society. Dahil kasi nga, Catholic nation, Islamic nation, or halo, no? Dominant ang Catholic at Islam dito sa ating bansa. Pero nagdasal ako sa Panginoon na kailangan bang magbukas ng simbahan? Parang sabi niya, yes. Sa panahon ngayon, kailangan ngayon ng maraming simbahan, kahit na anumang relihiyon mo, para ang tao mas lalong lumapit sa kanila, lumapit sa Diyos. No? Pero ang nagiging problema sa ngayon, kung ang simbahan ay tatanggihan ang LGBT, sino ang tatanggap sa LGBT kung walang mga simbahan? Kaya nga nung nakita ko ang MMC, tama po ba? MCC pala, Metropolitan Community Church at iba pang mga simbahan dito. Sabi ko, wow, meron na ngang simbahan dito na tumatanggap sa LGBT. Pero lahat ng simbahan dito, anuman ang relihiyon mo, ay mahalaga or importante dahil may pagkakataon ang mga tao na lumapit sa Diyos, na magdasal at makilala nila ang kanilang sarili na sila din ay anak ng Diyos. Kaya nga sa mga LGBT, no, whether na kayo ay pumasok sa aming simbahan, sa MCC, o sa simbahan ni Raden, sa susunod magkakaroon na yan, alam ko, no, go Muslim, go. Magsasala din ako kasama ka, no? Yun, iparamdam natin bilang isang religious, bilang pastor, bilang ministro, bilang pare, no? Iparamdam natin sa mga kapatid nating LGBT na mahal sila ng Diyos. Yun naman ang mahalaga eh. Even sa Catholic Church, alam natin, ako nagpapasalamat ako, nandito rin si Mitzi, no? Dahil sa ginagawa mo, natutulungan natin na lumapit ang tao sa Diyos at magkaroon sila ng pag-asa na mabuhay ng maayos at maigi. So yun lamang po ang mensahe ko.
Okay, thank you po. Maraming salamat, Reverend Kumon. Okay, I can see Radem. Sige, Radem.
So I just want to comment about Father Kumon. No? There's actually a mosque in Indonesia that caters for the LGBT people. And I think that's a good messaging and improvement as well, no? And for Father Joseph as well, yes, we should know our battle, especially in the Muslim community. But if there's an opportunity for a dialogue and someone will come forward and willing to talk about compromise and understand, we should also welcome them, but give them we should parang palawakin natin yung patience natin kasi understanding SOGIE can be challenging as well, and it will be a process, especially for the conservative Muslim. But if there's an intention to dialogue, accept it, and see whatever happens with it. So sa mga LGBT activists and advocates, especially all over the Philippines, we should not be afraid to talk about LGBT from Muslim and indigenous community because they are experiencing intersecting marginalization that prevents them from talking. And if they won't talk and we will not talk, so who will talk for them? And I think that's always a problem, na a lot of advocates, LGBT advocates and activists in Luzon or Metro Manila, they don't want to talk about this Muslim and indigenous narrative because they feel like they don't have the authority to speak for them. But by just mentioning that they exist, I think that gives a good messaging na they are being welcomed to the narrative of SOGIE. And what you call this? And yeah, so that's the challenge. The challenges in the LGBT community, the lack of representation in the room, being on the table and being able to free to talk about things. And whenever you read the Holy Book, read it with the idea of diversity, coexistence, and human rights in mind. That would really help a lot. And when you do, sometimes the river in the Quran suddenly become more just than a river. It would give a new and beautiful meaning that involves other people's narrative into understanding the Holy Book, no? And if your faith, ito ni-mention to ni sino lang mention ito? Ni-mention to one sa akin ni Samira Gutok, no? Na if your faith community cannot or will not accept and respect you, then go to that community that will. And if sa akin na to, if your family will not accept you and will not treat you like a family member, then have the courage to live. Know that blood doesn't make a family. Love does. Char. And going back, ito pa, last isa. And Islam is all about your personal relationship to your creator, and it's been told to me many times by a lot of Muslim scholars, no, and I agree with that. No one can force you on how you want that relationship would prosper or grow, but we should always have in mind that in taking the path of understanding Islam or the Bible, the Christian, the Catholic, we should always have in mind that there are other people that might affect our interpretation. So we should be understandable. We should understand their situation as well, no? So yung masasabi ko sa mga LGBT community and also the allies as well, no? In pursuit on whatever sets our world on fire, always make sure that you always bloom with others, because that would make a difference. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Radem. So, sinong susunod? Si Reverend Joseph, would you like to speak next?
Yes. Sagutin ko lang muna yung part na if the conservative is willing to a dialogue, by all means. What I'm saying is a vast majority of them whose only intention and in commitment and conviction is to say that you will burn in hell. I don't think we should engage with those. But those who are willing to engage, to talk, to have a meaningful conversation, even if we don't agree, certainly we can talk with them. A message ko, ang pananampalataya at sexualidad ay hindi kailangang may tunggalian at ang advokasya at pananampalataya hindi kailangang may tunggalian. And if we read our Bible and pray every day, you will see that there is no contradiction in that. If we study history, many religious people were motivated to fight for justice and human rights based on their religious conviction. And certainly that is also the case with us, tayong mga LGBT. It's okay na sumamba at makibaka, no? And it's actually an imperative of faith to fight for justice. So sa mga kapatid kong mga makukulay na mga LGBT Kristiyano, makibaka tayo, makisangkot tayo, sabi nga ni Ricky Lee. So my message also is, I will quote a certain Brian Zand. He says that God is not doctrine, God is not denomination, God is not war, God is not law, God is not hate, God is not hell. At kung i-add ko pa, God is not scripture. God is not the Bible. God is not the pastor, the bishop, or the priest. What is God according to the Bible? God is love. God is love. And for our LGBTQI siblings, yan ang ating panghawakan. Yan ang katotohanan na ating panghawakan. At nabanggitan nun ni Mitzi kanina, when Jesus was asked, "Teacher, what is the greatest law in the law of Moses?" And Jesus replied, "Love God and love neighbor as yourself." By these two laws, all of the laws and all of the prophets are already here in these two laws. So God is not doctrine, God is not Bible, God is love. Hold on to the truth that God loves you no matter what. And I know do sa mga lumaki sa atin sa simbahan, no, we grew up in the church and a very religious family. Our churches may reject us. Our parents, our families may reject us. and disown us. But we hold on to the truth that God loves you. Ang kabuuan mo, no? Ang kabuuan mo ay mahal ng Diyos. The entirety of you is something that God loves. And your potential is something that God loves. At yung pag-ibig ng Diyos na yon calls you to come out. That same love of God calls you to come out, to say your story, to proclaim your story, to live the truth of who you are, and to courageously love others by advocating for justice, equality, and inclusion, the very same way that Jesus did. It is not easy, hindi madali, and marami sa nakikinig sa atin, nanonood sa atin ngayon ay still in the closet, natatakot sa rejection ng pamilya at simbahan. Kami din, there are so many of us who were once afraid. Look at us, look at your queer siblings. Search out, hanapin nyo ang inyong tribo, your rainbow tribe. You are not alone. You are never alone. 365 times in the Bible, it says, for every day in the year, 365 times in the Bible, it says, do not be afraid, because God loves you just the way you are. And God's love for you will never change. God is love, always and forever. And may each one of you na nakikinig ngayon, nanonood, may you receive God's rainbow blessing. Amen.
Papa-amen ka talaga kay Reverend Joseph. Thank you for that very uplifting message. And now I will go to Nicole. Anong iyong mensahe for our LGBTQI sisters and brothers with respect to their religious faith?
So one message that I have is, you gotta do what you gotta do. No? Do what you want. As long as you are not stepping on other people, do it. If people judge you or degrade you for being who you are because of certain standards in relation with your faith and your religion, then prove to them otherwise by acting upon it. Never let these kinds of people win, and you have to set your own standard and then prove to them that their definition of standard is not your definition of standard. We are all free to choose who we want to be. We are all free to choose what we want to believe in, and we are free to love who we want to love. I would also like to take this opportunity to give a message to the members of the LGBTQI community who are still in the closet because of their faith or their Catholic faith. I know that it is not easy, especially if you are from a traditional Catholic family, but always remember this. Give yourself a chance too. They are not you, you are you. Maybe for the longest time you have been preoccupied with thoughts of how they will react, yet you haven't thought about yourself. Just as much as you care for your family, no? You also have to care for yourself. Like it's time for you to be free and for you to be who you truly feel. Just like what I said a while ago. As long as you remain faithful to your belief and as long as you are not causing harm to others, give yourself a chance to express yourself even gradually, step by step, because a small step is another step. It's like, a small step is also a step forward. No? It may not always be rainbows or butterflies at the end or even throughout your journey, but at least it is better than being locked up in a wall that only you can break. So lastly, I would also like to quote Kim Namjoon from his speech at the launch of Generation Unlimited at the United Nations General Assembly last 2018. And I quote, "No matter who you are, where you're from, your skin color, your gender identity, just speak yourself. Find your name and find your voice by speaking yourself." End of quote. So yeah, do what you gotta do, because let me remind you, and also all others who choose to discriminate the LGBTQI community, that discrimination is not a religious value.
Thank you very much, Nicole. So thank you to our 4 speakers, but we're not going to release you yet because we have some questions for the open forum. We're not going to take a lot because of our time limitations, but I'll start with the first question. This is directed to Pastor Joseph. Pastor Joseph, ito po ang tanong para sa inyo. It's about the Bible and religion.
Yes.
Ang sabi po, nagtatanong, the Bible is already known to be deeply outdated, and as you already pointed out, so is it ever going to be possible to hope for an intelligent, quote-unquote, revision according to modern times without the institutional misogyny and homophobia? Because homophobic and misogynistic interpretations have been the most rampant interpretations, so much so that they aren't myths anymore, but considered religious facts to a staggering majority.
Okay, medyo nalito ako dun sa ibig niya sabihin ng, nakamute ba ako? Yeah. So, medyo nalito ako dun sa sinabi niyang outdated daw ba ang Bible. I think, number one, the Bible itself, yung mismong actual book, no, that are a set of books, it is actually updated. That's why you have hundreds of different English translations and translations of other, because they continue to update in terms of how accurate and how faithful are the translations to the original language. So in that sense, in terms of translation, different translation, it's updated. What might be being referred to is yung nilala nung Bible, no? Things about slavery, things about anti-women verses, wala tayong magagawa doon. Yun ang nakasulat. The Bible has so many things that are a product of their time. Slavery, genocide, patriarchy, anti-women verses. What we need to update is our methods of interpretation. How do we read? How do we interpret the Bible? No, the prevailing method of interpretation is proof texting. No, meaning meron akong bias or meron akong paniniwala, saka ako huhugot ng passage sa Bible to support my particular bias or paniniwala or long-held interpretation. Yan ang maraming ginagawa ng mga pastor, pare, you know. Now we have to update that because again, the Bible should not be used in that way. Because what was written 2,000, 3,000 years ago does not necessarily translate to today's lives, to today's society. How do we then take certain passages of the Bible to consider their context and to see if they are still relevant today or not? Paano ba yon? And then, ano ba yung lenteng ginagamit natin to draw out message from the Bible? Anong lente ba? Lente ba to ng isang violent at machismo na paniniwala, o lente ito ng pagmamahal at pag-asa at katarungan? So in the way we have to update our methods of interpretation, we have to include in our interpretation science, what science tells us, what archaeology has given to us, what is the modern concepts that needs to be included in our ways of interpretation. And sa isang Kristiyano, dapat ang sentro or ang iyong measure of hermeneutics, measure of exegesis, meaning yung method mo ng interpretation, ang lente mo palagi ay dapat nasa lente ng kung sino si Jesus at ano ba ang ginawa ni Jesus. So anuman ang passage na gusto mong i-interpret o basahin, the question is, how would Jesus understand this? How would Jesus deliver this? What would be the Jesus message in this passage when we quote the Bible, and not the other way around? No, we don't quote the Bible for our message. We quote the Bible in terms of who Jesus is. Salamat po.
Okay. So thank you, Reverend Joseph. Okay, the next question is for Radem. And the person who asked has a message. Forgive me if I'm not very well informed of the distinction. Okay, the question is, do Muslims in the Philippines mirror the extremist views of the Arab nations towards LGBTQI individuals? Or do they have some form of autonomy towards this issue? Or are they as passionate? Radem. Is Radem here? Parang nawawala ata. Okay. O sige. We'll just wait for him to come back in. I have just one more question, and I think all of you can answer it, no? So the question is, there are LGBTQI plus advocates who argue that fighting for LGBTQI rights should remain secular rather than religious. So as religious leaders and representatives, why is it important to address religion or spirituality within the LGBTQI rights movement?
Okay, may I answer that? There are LGBTQ advocates who argue that fighting for LGBTQ rights should remain. Actually, hindi po pwede siyang maging secular lang. No, ang paglalaba ang pakikibaka natin sa karapatan ng mga LGBTQI ay isang uri din ng religious movement or religious revolution. Ito ay lalo na sa konsepto ng indigenous religion, no, na ang ating pattern ay si Babaylan Tablot, no. Si Babaylan Tablot ay nakipaglaban religiously laban sa politika ng bansa noong unang panahon dahil sa paglaganap ng Katolisismo na dala ay espada, no. Ano ba ang pinaglalaban ni Tamblot? Yun yung paniniwala sa mga katutubong Panginoon o Anito at Diwata, at gayon din sa pagkatao nila. Dahil kaming mga babaylan, tayong mga babaylan noon, no, tayo yung mga religious leader. Pero dahil sa pagdating ng Kristyanismo, ng mga Kastila, ay tinawag din tayong mga aswang or mga mangkukulam, or we've been demonized o naging demonyo kami sa lipunan. Una, kakaiba ang relihiyon namin dahil sumasamba kami sa mga katutubong Diyos na akala ay sumasamba kami sa puno, sa dagat, sa ilog, at bukod pa kami mga lalaki ay meron ding asawang lalaki at nagdadamit babae. Actually, ang pananamit natin, no, bilang mga Pilipino is similar, kumbaga gender neutral. Kung makikita nyo sa Indonesia, sa Malaysia, sa even sa Taiwan and even Japan, no, ang damit na parang nakasaya gender neutral, no. Ang pakikibaka hindi siya para sa akin hindi siya pwedeng maging secular lang, no, hindi siya maaring secular dahil una nag-exist din ang karapatan natin dito sa mundong ito. We are fighting for balance and for equality, that our rights not only as a minority religion, but for the entire LGBT people in the world.
Okay.
Yun po.
So, thank you po, Reverend Comon. Pero hindi naman po natin sinasabi na yung mga secular ay hindi naman po pwedeng ipaglaban ng karapatan ng
yes.
community.
Totoo po yan. Totoo po yan.
O sige, I need to address these questions to Radem kasi mawawala na naman siya, no? Kasi problema siya sa kanyang ano ba yan? Lobat. Okay, so answer these two questions. First, do Muslims in the Philippines mirror the extremist views of the Arab nations towards the LGBTQI community? Or do you, Filipino Muslims, have some form of autonomy towards this issue? Or are you as passionate?
No, I think our Moro brothers and sisters has autonomy in regards to this, no? A lot of faith community, the Muslim community, the narrative is always like they condemn the homosexual act, but not the homosexual. They always repeat that. So it means it gives this notion that they welcome the homosexual. They just for some point, they don't like the idea of, anal sex or same sex, whatever, sexual intercourse. And about the extremist cause from the Arab nations, no, when there was a siege in Zamboanga City, in Marawi, and there were some other attacks in Mindanao, a lot of Muslim communities called out those violence. And they said that those people are not Muslim because they don't exercise compassion, coexistence, and peace. So a lot of Muslim in Mindanao, they don't really embrace these extremist views from the Arab nations. But of course, there are certain religious policies that they do. But we have more autonomy pa. We are more Filipino-ish Muslim rather than Muslim from the Arab nation. So yes, that answers your question. There's a lot of really good and amazing moral Muslims in Mindanao. We just have to give them the chance to speak out, and be friends with them rather than close the door automatically simply because we have this internalized homophobia thinking that Muslims are horrible people. It's not true. Muslims are really good. That's all.
Now, there's another question before you disappear.
Okay, go.
Should the fight for LGBTQI rights remain secular? I don't even know why it's remain because it's not naman really secular. I mean, you are proof that it's not secular. So as religious leaders, why is it important to address the issue of religion and spirituality within the LGBTQI plus movement?
Wait lang ha, medyo nag-choppy ka. What was the question?
The question is, why is it important for religious leaders or representatives such as yourself? Why is it important to address the issues of religion and sexuality within the LGBTQI rights movement?
Oh yeah, it's important to address this, no, because there are a lot of gender violence in Mindanao, and if you're not going to address this and match it in the teaching of acceptance, compassion, and diversity in the Quran, it will really become a really huge problem. So the religious leaders and the Muslim communities should address this right away, and to make sure that even if they don't agree with homosexual acts, they need to make sure that the right to live and to exist and the freedom of other people who are not the same as how they think about the LGBT should still prevail. So yeah.
Okay, so thank you for that answer. Now, if we can ask see Reverend Joseph and Nicole to answer the same question before we end this.
What should it be? Just be secular? No, because we are 80% Roman Catholic in population and several percent of Protestant Christians. So many people understand things from a religious point of view, or would ask, what does it mean? Some people would understand it on a secular point of view, but will still ask, what does this mean to my faith? What does this mean to my religion? Will it affect my faith? So kailangan, no, importante ang boses ng progresibong relihiyon, progresibong Kristyanismo sa laban at pakikibaka ng anumang usaping pangkarapatan pantao o pangkatarungan. At again, babalik pa rin ako sa history, no? Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, Gandhi. So there are so many civil rights movement, justice movement where parte ang maraming may sektor ng relihiyon na palaging nandoon at napaka-powerful at importante ng boses nila to address and to respond and to salagin naman yung conservative religious points of view. Kasi kung hindi magsasalita ang whether we like it or not, the conservatives will talk, will fight against anything that is they think goes against their religious point of view. So it might as well the progressive ones also talk, and to raise our voice. that there is a different discourse, there is a different way of spirituality and faith than what is prevailing.
Well, thank you, Reverend Joseph. And lastly, Nicole.
Ayan. Okay, so I think that it should not be secular because it is part of our identity. Like as a Catholic, it really is important to address spirituality within the LGBT campaign because it is part of who we are. Just like I mentioned a while ago, we do not have to choose over the other, no? It can or rather it should be integrated into one. Being able to practice in this both identities into one mean that we give importance to both. More so, it affects our society. How we practice it as advocates, we become examples for the society to follow our lead. This would hopefully remove the discrimination and prejudice as well within and outside the church. Also, we should be able to incorporate spirituality with the LGBT because it expresses our goal for equality.
Okay. So we'd like to thank again Mitzi Nicole, Angeles, Radem Musawa, Reverend Joseph San Jose, and Reverend Rolando Comon for that very passionate and rich sharing. And we also, of course, would like to acknowledge and thank our Filipino Sign Language interpreters, KZ Miroy and Bayani Geronimo. At this point, I'm going to turn you over to our host, Bella, the President, Punong Babaylan ng UP Babaylan. Bella.
Thank you po ulit, Ma'am Natsi, for moderating this afternoon's discussion. Literal na sobrang dami po naming nakuhang ideas and ngayon parang realize po natin na hindi naman talaga dapat pinapagtunggali yung dalawang ideas na yun. And hindi dapat nagkakaroon ng cognitive dissonance between those two. And kaya naman talaga nating mabuhay na parang peaceful yung interaction ng dalawa. And again, sobrang marami pong salamat sa discussion na ito. And before we end this webinar, meron po ba tayong mga gustong i-plug na event? Reverend Common, meron po ba tayong gustong Yes po. And si Sir Joseph, late after.
Ayun nga po, no. So, it's not SOGIE related, pero ito isang paglilingkod ng aming simbahan. Pwede ba ako mag-share ng screen?
Ay, sige po.
Okay, mag-share lang po ako ng screen. No, gusto kong anyayahan ang bawat isa na pumunta sa corellian.net dahil magkakaroon po kami ng inaugural Corellian Psychic Fair. Ito po ay pinangunahan ng Corellian tradition sa pamagitan ng Corellian Order of the Paladins. No? So marami po tayong mga psychics na or alam naman natin siguro kung ano yung mga psychics, no, na manggagaling sa iba't ibang bansa. At ito ay mangyayari online. So ito ay mangyayari sa May 21 hanggang May 25, 2020 at lahat ng detalye ay inyo makikita sa corellian.net. So ang gagawin ko po ay magbabasa po tayo ng Vision Quest Tarot, Dragon Runes, Elemental Name Analysis at Kiluban sa Healing. Ito ay isang mga paglilingkod na ginagawa natin sa ating simbahan for mental and emotional health and spiritual guidance na rin po. So yun lamang po. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Reverend Common. Reverend Joseph, meron po ba tayong gustong i-share?
Okay. Well, just search us out, Open Table MCC. So we have a YouTube channel, we have a Facebook channel, we have Twitter. So we also have last year we have done an in-depth study of the 6 anti-LGBT Bible passages nasa YouTube namin yan. Although yung Leviticus yata hindi namin na-record. So there are 5 studies that you can look up sa YouTube namin, and other content that we have regarding queer theology and progressive theology. We are located in Mandaluyong, halos katabi lang ng GA Tower 1 or Tower 2. So, but quarantine, so hindi tayo makalabas. So, find us, search us in your own way.
Thank you very much, Reverend Common. Yes po, Sir Radem.
Yes, hello, sorry. Halapit ako malobat. But anyway, so I wanted to plug as well. We have a webinar this coming Friday at 2 p.m. This is organized by Mindanao Pride and the Dutch Embassy. It talks about LGBT in time of pandemic. So that's all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, UP Babaylan.
Thank you po. Yes po. Miss Mitzi, meron po ba tayong...
Wala po ako ipa-plug. Thank you po.
Thank you very much po. And again, we're inviting everyone po if you want to commission our volunteer artist para naman po ito sa ating mga lola sa Golden Gates, Manila. So if you want your own portrait, pwede po tayong magpagawa sa kanila. And of course, if you're free on Friday night, 8 p.m., sumali po tayo sa ating Twitter rally. And again, thank you everyone. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to our Filipino Sign Language interpreters. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. And again, this is Love Thy Neighbor. Thank you po.